On the heels of a Saturday night's main event that saw the return of Big Bronson Reed and his alignment with Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and Paul Heyman, WWE Raw hit the Netflix airwaves with a jam-packed show focused on the build to Money in the Bank on June 7th, with two qualifying matches for the Premium Live Events namesake match and a big three-way bout for the World Tag Team Championship. What went down last night in Tampa at the Yuengling Center? Find out now with this recap, including ratings and analysis for every match and segment. For this is Ridiculously Raw. Hey there, welcome everybody to another edition of Ridiculously Raw, the most must-see show on YouTube and StreamYard.com today. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined as always by good old MF Michael Fletcher. We are awaiting the presence of the phenom Michael Bullock. If he comes in, we'll catch him up on what he missed. If not, then we'll hopefully have him back on for our next offering. We will address the feature content at the end of the show. And stunning developments in the world of professional wrestling here tonight. We will address that at the end of the show. Well, at the end of our second review, of course. You know how we do it here. We got Monday Night Raw, and we have a newsworthy NXT with a show that I honestly thought was going to be a back to reality show. Oh no, there was no back to reality. One of the most newsworthy NXTs you will ever see, including an ending that you will not believe. So here we go. Let's dive on in. We started off with Monday Night Raw, the third and final night at the Yuengling Center in Tampa, Florida. And we started it off with an in-ring segment. It was Seth freaking Rollins, Braun Breaker, Big Bronson Reed, and the wise man, Paul Heyman. They came out and they opened the show. So let's set it up. Seth freaking Rollins, Braun Breaker, Big Bronson Reed, and the wise man, Paul Heyman, made their way to the ring to kick off the show. Their growing faction, as of yet unnamed. Paul Heyman put over Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed as only he can before handing over the microphone to the Visionary. Rollins cut a solid heel promo in which he lashed out at the fans before vowing to win the Money in the Bank briefcase, something he says is more powerful than the World Heavyweight Championship. Because he is a revolutionary. Cue the theme song. This worked in that Heyman put over why the group is even more unstoppable, with Reed joining Breaker as backup for Rollins, who laid the foundation for his night as he will compete in a Money in the Bank qualifying match later in the night and take one step closer toward a berth in the men's match on June 7. Solid, unspectacular, but most definitely effective. Heyman described Breaker as a badass and a true bloodline of badasses. Heyman cited the amount of damage Reed did to Rollins in a short period compared to what Roman Reigns did as the reason for the Visionary wanting him to join his group. Rollins played the crowd like a fiddle, letting the heat and chants of OTC build in support of Reigns before launching into his promo, which included the "you people" shtick and him insisting that he is the only person capable of yielding power. And he also said, "I have found something more powerful than championships. I have found something that allows me to decide the fates of these championships," Rollins said before looking toward the sky at the Money in the Bank briefcase. Solid, unspectacular, but most definitely effective. So there isn't much more to say on that. MF, great, solid way to start the show with the new faction, Big Bronson Reed, now a part of it. Heyman put everybody over like the mouthpiece and the wise man that he is. This group is going to be an unstoppable force on Monday Night Raw for who knows how long.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, this was a solid way to open the show. The way that Heyman and the guys did everything they needed to do, it served its purpose. We finally got a little bit of the reason why they did what they did. We finally got a little bit of why certain things went those certain ways. I thought they did a really good job with it. So yeah, I thought they did a fine job with it. And yeah, there's really nothing more to add there, Anthony. So yeah, could have it been better? Yeah, but I think for the most part, it served its purpose. So yeah, so well done, and it's yours.
Well, MF, you start off on our first match of the night, the first of our two Money in the Bank qualifying matches on the men's side. Chad Gable versus Dragon Lee versus Penta. Penta wins the match in an even 10 minutes, and it was all because of the greatest mega campeon in AAA history, El Vikingo. He attacked Chad Gable. Referee did not see it, and it opened the door for Penta to win it. We all know it'll be Vikingo and Chad Gable at Worlds Collide on June 7th, and great way to start building it. So MF, Penta now qualifies for the Money in the Bank ladder match in an even 10 minutes. Penta, LA Knight, Solo Sikoa. How are we feeling about that field so far?
Yeah, no, the field's looking good. The field's looking stronger. It definitely looks a lot more better, and I really think they did a really good job. I think the way that it was played out looked really good, and it was a solid match. This was a 3.5 to 3 3/4 star fight. You could even say this to me. This was my fight of the night. I thought they absolutely tore the house down. The way that this came out, the action that was in it, and the way that the story was brought, I really was very impressed with everything that they did in this. And yeah, like I said, I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I thought it was an incredible match. And it's totally yours, Anthony. I thought to me, the action was without a doubt the best that we saw up to this point. So I'm gonna say it 3.5 to 3 3/4. And to me, you can say whatever you want to say, but to me, this was the fight of the night.
But yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not going to make an argument on that. I mean, 3.5, 3 3/4. You could say we're overrating it, but I don't care. We're not overrating it. It was a good, fast-paced match that continued one story, introduced Vikingo to Gable's vendetta against Lucha Libre, and put Penta on a path to a ladder match on June 7th that he could very well be the star of. Clever booking here from Triple H as he programs Chad Gable against two luchadors to keep that story going, all while determining which competitor will enter Money in the Bank. A poorly devised spot saw Penta drive Gable's head, neck, and face into the mat. Eesh. The former Olympian is an absolute machine because a lesser athlete would be piecing his neck back together. So 3.5 to 3 3/4 of a star, most definitely. And by the way, Gable took a cheap shot at Vikingo at ringside, and the world-renowned competitor made his presence felt moments later, directly influencing the outcome and ensuring that Chad Gable did not qualify for the Money in the Bank ladder match. He may not qualify as Chad Gable, but why do I have a sneaking suspicion he might get in there as El Grande Americano? I would not be surprised if that happens. So 3.5 to 3 3/4 of a star. And then, well, normally we don't address backstage segments that often, but in this case, we most certainly do. Judgment Day Clubhouse, Finn Balor and JD McDonough were seated on a couch and talking in the clubhouse while Raquel Rodriguez stood by. Dominic Mysterio and Carlito were playing the
2K25
video game, obviously. Yep. And who shows up then, as MF would say, that naughty little minx, Roxanne Perez. Roxanne Perez showed up with another tray of chicken nuggets. My kind of girl. I love the chicken nuggets myself. I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
Roxanne Perez said to Dom, "Hey, your shoulder looks tight. Let me get that." And then you hear a loud voice say, "Konnichiwa, biatches." And who was it? Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan. Well, I wonder if creative may have heard us talk about this on last week's show about a possibility of Liv walking in on Roxanne and Dom. You could say this was the PG version of the infamous Triple H and Trish from 2000. That was not PG. This last night was PG. And then Roxanne Perez tried to introduce herself, but Liv Morgan was like, talk to the hand. And Finn Balor had a smile on his face like a little kid on Christmas morning. Cheshire Cat and then some. Morgan said Raquel kept her up to speed on what was going on. And Morgan said she found some things to be very interesting and she would address those things after she was going to go talk to Adam Pearce about getting herself a Money in the Bank qualifying match. Balor was all smiles after Morgan and Raquel left the room. Dom said it was great that Liv was back, and a giddy Balor agreed. And Carlito told Dom he needed to stop eating Roxanne Perez's chicken nuggets. Oh, well. I think we're starting to see the chinks in the armor a little bit here. So that happened. Yeah. So, oh boy, that's all I can say on that. And that was the PG version of Triple H and Trish. Simple as that. So imagine if they did something similar to that. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Especially if it would have been like a TV-14 version of it, but the thing is that I don't even know what to even say. It just kind of, it just kind of hit us out of nowhere. But then I remember I was saying that there was a rumor going around that I knew that they were saying that her movie Commitment was wrapping up, and that they were saying that she could be back as early as next week. And I'm like, well, I knew it was going to be 1 week or 2 weeks. So I kind of was, we kind of were waiting, if we didn't see Liv this week, okay, then we know definitely it was going to be next week. Well, let's just say they decided that now was the time. And yeah.
Awkward.
And the thing was, it was not really like, again, Finn is the master manipulator of the whole situation. He definitely knows what he's doing. Like I said, he was the one that basically was manipulating the power, and all of a sudden, here we go. So, I don't think there's really much more to say. So,
no
floor is yours. Yeah.
Yeah. So we move on. This might be our only cutout of the night here. Rusev swearing off against Akira Tozawa with Maxine Dupree in his corner. Rusev won the match in 50 seconds. 50 seconds. That's all it took.
Yeah.
And then from there, well, a lot of people were calling for this on social media. A lot of people were calling for this to be Rusev's first big feud since coming back. Rusev, he defeats Akira Tozawa with the accolade. He wouldn't let it go, and then he did where you bend them back like he always did to the smaller guys when he was first there, and then Tozawa finally got them back up in the form of an old friend of Rusev's, the Celtic Warrior Sheamus. League of Nations, we all remember that.
Yep.
And well, looks like Rusev and Sheamus are on a collision course. Booker T, in the immortal words of Booker T, no bread, no water, just meat. So, oh yeah. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that developing situation. Obviously, it's a dud. It's obviously the worst fight of the night. And Sheamus may be the most selfless, genuine star on the roster. Always willing to work with anyone in any program, even if it means he will likely lose. Not many former world champions embrace that rule. So we shall see what happens. So with that being said, let's move on now. Now we're going to get into this triple threat match for the World Tag Team Championship. The champions, The New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, defending against former World Tag Team Champions, the team that they took the titles from at WrestleMania, the War Raiders, Eric and Ivar, and also the Creed brothers, Julius and Brutus Creed. And the winners of the match, 8 minutes and 45 seconds, and still the World Tag Team Champions. It is The New Day. As the action broke down, the champions did as they have done throughout this heel run, winning the match by seizing an opening. The match was perfectly fine and featured some hard work from the 6 men involved, but the crowd's lack of investment is indicative of the creative team's need to focus on stories and character development that extends beyond 2 or 3 teams fighting for the gold. The crowd did not care about this one, something that is massively disappointing given the talent involved. Ivar does not get enough credit for being one of the best and most impressive super heavyweights in the company. And can we please give the Creed something to do, because these undefined underlings for Chad Gable who lose every big match they are in is not doing it. Sorry. 2.5, teetering on 2 3/4 of a star for this. And MF, in the immortal words of Jesse the Body from WrestleMania 5, The New Day, especially Xavier Woods, pulling the tights and getting the win.
Yeah, and they did. There's really not much more for us to say on that one. 2.5 stars, no doubt about it. Solid victory for them, and yeah, they move up the ranks, and there's not much for us to say there. So, Anthony, it is all yours, and yeah, the New Day successfully defends the titles.
New Day successfully defends the titles, and we move on to another in-ring segment. The World Heavyweight Champion, main event, Jey Uso. Before Jey Uso could address his Money in the Bank tag team match with the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes against the undisputed WWE Champion John Cena and Logan Paul, Gunther interrupted and addressed their upcoming WrestleMania return match on June 9th on Raw in Phoenix. The Reign General calmly and smugly vowed to take back his World Heavyweight Championship, while Jey Uso reiterated that he fights for the people who fought for him. So, MF, it was basically more of the same that we have seen out of these two, which should be expected. Given the 10-week prep that went into their WrestleMania match. But nonetheless, this is the WrestleMania rematch. 2 weeks from now, June 9th. Question is, will this be better than what we got at WrestleMania?
I think it's going to be similar. I don't feel like I just don't feel like there's gonna be much resolvement after this. So I do believe that when it's all said and done, the winners, Jey Uso, should successfully defend the title. What I'm afraid of is if somebody's gonna cash in the Money in the Bank on them.
That's right.
And that's the one concern I would have more than anything else.
If Seth wins.
Yes. So that would be the one thing I would be more concerned about more than anything else. So
it's very possible.
Yeah. So Anthony, it's yours.
It's after, because this is directly after Money in the Bank. This will be 2 nights after Money in the Bank at the Intuit Dome in LA. And oh my gosh. Well, Jey and Gunther better hope a SmackDown guy wins that contract and focuses on John Cena and not on Jey or Gunther, for that matter. If a Raw guy wins, especially Seth freaking Rollins, Mr. Heist of the Century. If it's Seth freaking Rollins, we could easily get Heist of the Century too. You never know. So, well said, MF. Very well said. And like I said, it was more of the same that we have seen out of these two, which is expected given the 10-week build that went into their WrestleMania bout. I think it's highly unlikely that Jay loses, as the big money match appears to be a showdown with Rollins, presumably as soon as SummerSlam, but do not count out a screwy finish that protects Gunther, who is one of the most believable and legitimate competitors on the roster. Gunther said, "You are holding on to this title way longer than I expected," delivering the most backhanded compliment of the night like a proper smug heel. And he also said, "Just look at how I was able to be a champion for almost a year, because the only person I care about is myself." And he also said, "I'm going to make things right. I'm going to choke you out. I'm going to take my World Heavyweight Championship back where it belongs, around my waist." But Jay said, "I'm done with everyone saying my days as champ are numbered." So I cannot wait. June 9th. Let's go. So we have a couple of developments from the sports world here. The Indiana Pacers have defeated the New York Knicks 130-121. They now lead the Eastern Conference Finals 3-1, and they can close out the series on Thursday night in Madison Square Garden. We'll see how that happens. And the Edmonton Oilers have defeated the Dallas Stars by a score of 4-1. Edmonton now leads that series 3-1, and they can close it out. Florida is up 3-1 on Carolina, so we could be looking at a rematch. We might get it. It might be happening. It would be the first time since 08 and 09 when Pittsburgh and Detroit went at it back-to-back years, so it could happen again. So, and of course, also in the NBA, Oklahoma City's up 3-1 on Minnesota. So over the next couple of nights, we've got elimination games. So we'll definitely keep an eye on those developments for sure. So, but anyways, let's continue on here. Earlier in the show, there was a backstage confrontation with Io Sky and Kairi Sane. They were confronted by Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. And the product of this backstage confrontation, the returning Liv Morgan squared off with former tag team and NXT Women's Champion Kairi Sane. So it was Liv Morgan versus Kairi Sane. And Kairi Sane pulls the upset. Kairi Sane wins the match in 10 minutes and 55 seconds. A competitive match that saw Morgan dominate through the commercial break and appear to have victory in hand at one point. Late in the match, though, Kairi Sane set up for the insane elbow, only for Roxanne Perez to come from out of nowhere and shove Kairi Sane off the top rope. And then an immediate argument with Raquel Rodriguez at ringside distracted Liv Morgan, allowing Sane to stack her up and steal the win. And the look on Morgan's face and her displeasure for Perez's interaction with Dominic earlier in the night suggests there is a blow-up coming sooner rather than later. In terms of giving Perez something significant to do on the main roster while providing fans a fresh feud, it works. It really works. And finally, Kairi Sane earned a win she needed after last week's loss, though the creative team will have to work hard to remind the fans of why Kairi Sane is a special talent, because right now they are struggling to connect and invest. Michael Cole noted on commentary that this is the first ever meeting between Liv Morgan and Kairi Sane, making it 2 weeks in a row that the Pirate Princess has battled an opponent for the first time. Last week, that was Rhea Ripley. Kairi Sane absolutely laid into Liv Morgan with her diving forearm to the chest, and Liv Morgan's facial expressions after the bell were superb. Really. I will give this about 3 to 3.25 stars. It was a mostly rough bout, but a surprising outcome with Kairi getting the win here. So I said it earlier, MF. I said it earlier. The chinks we're slowly starting to see the chinks in the armor of the Judgment Day, and after this little somewhat botcheroo by Raquel especially Raquel, after Roxanne did the dirty work. Raquel got in Roxanne's face, and that distracted Liv long enough for Kyrie to steal the win, and then they had a blow up in the clubhouse. So dissension in the ranks here.
Yeah, and the thing is that a lot of people were thinking, you know, Raquel's gonna, that the explosion was gonna come because of the thing that you were gonna say from the issues from, and no, it wasn't. And the funny thing is that it actually was not from uh, from Raquel, from from Roxanne Perez. She did not cost this fight. It was Raquel Rodriguez. Raquel blew the whole thing up. Her ego, and because she wanted to protect Liv, which vice versa. You can't be too mad about it. But she made a mistake and it cost them. So yeah, I don't think there's much for us to say here. It was a solid matchup, and yeah, a big win for the Pirate Princess, for Kairi Sane. So yeah, Anthony, it's all yours.
Okay. My thing refreshed to the top. All right. Just bear with me for a minute here. Let's see. 7. All right. Okay. I believe next up is another verbal exchange between the Women's Intercontinental Champion Lyra Valkyria, interrupted by Becky Lynch, and this is something that we have shown praise to over the last several weeks, especially the body of work of Lyra's promos. And Women's Intercontinental Champion Lyra Valkyria took to the squared circle to address her upcoming rematch against Becky Lynch at Money in the Bank. Yes, it is confirmed. Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch will run it back at Money in the Bank for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. She's announced the idea that the man can just request and receive a title match without actually earning one, but that is right out of Becky's playbook. Becky Lynch interrupted and a verbal back and forth ensued, during which a challenge was laid down. If Becky Lynch loses the title, or if Becky Lynch loses the match to Lyra Valkyria, she will never challenge for the Women's Intercontinental Championship again. But if Lyra loses the title to Becky, Lyra must graciously raise Becky Lynch's hand in victory. The promo, much like Jey Uso and Gunther's earlier in the show, achieved nothing new of note, but it did hype up a future match. So MF, another verbal exchange between Lyra and Becky. I know you've been very high on Lyra and her promo abilities over the last few weeks, and do you still feel that way after last night?
Yes, I actually do feel that way. I really feel like she did a fine job. I don't think we can say that it was there wasn't anything bad about it. I thought they did a fine job. I thought it was good. I loved what they did, storyline wise, and yeah, it was all right. It was pretty good. So yeah, nothing more to say. So it's yours.
All right, and of course, like I said, the promo, much like with Jey Uso and Gunther earlier in the show, achieved nothing new of note, but did hype up a future match. The difference is this at least introduced a new stipulation to the equation, which should help make the rematch of one of the best matches from Backlash that much more interesting. Becky Lynch said, "You want a match? I won the night." And Lyra answered, "Your hot husband? You mean the only thing talented about you?" Yeah. And special stipulation matches where one superstar vows never to challenge for a title again almost always spoils the winner. Unless you are Cody Rhodes in AEW. When he willingly took himself out of the AEW world title picture. We all remember that years ago. Backstage, Karrion Kross stops Sami Zayn on his way to the ring, looking to further the mind games he has played with him for months, telling him that he will never be champion. And Sami walked away, but not without vowing to deal with Kross later. So we're definitely looking at something with that down the road, and I'm trying to see if they announced anything for next week. Not that I can surmise here, according to my notes here. So, yeah, I don't see anything. So I can't really hype anything for next week. The only thing that I do know is there will be more qualifier matches, obviously. So I think we can agree on that. So speaking of qualifiers, this is our main event of the evening. The other Money in the Bank qualifying match. Seth freaking Rollins with Paul Heyman in his corner, squaring off against Finn Balor and Sami Zayn. Winner of the match, 19 minutes and 40 seconds. It was Seth Rollins. Dominic Mysterio came out and slid a chair inside the ring. Finn Balor went for the chair, while Michael Cole said it was not a good throw by Dom. Seth Rollins hit the curb stomp on Finn Balor and then covered Finn for the 3 count. Based on time alone, you would have to consider this the fight of the night. You would have to give this about 4 to 4.25 stars for the effort. And crowd-pleasing main event coupled with CM Punk getting a measure of revenge and thus furthering the vendetta with his rival's faction made this an incredibly effective close to the show. 3 of the most significant stars of the last 20 years matched up here, and it was just another Raw main event. Also, 3 of the great workhorses in WWE over the last 10. The Balor coup de grace attempt into a stomp from Rollins, followed by the Haluva kick from Sami, was a great sequence. 4 to 4.25 stars for this incredible main event. So now we have the field here. I mean, we got 4 of the field here. We got Solo Sikoa, we got LA Knight, we got Penta, and now we can add Seth freaking Rollins to that mix. So 4 to 4.25 stars. When it was just LA and Solo, I wasn't feeling it. But MF, now that you're adding Penta and Seth to that mix, the men's Money in the Bank match just got a little bit better.
Yeah. And I gotta say that it's definitely it got very interesting now. So now we gotta wait and see how it plays out. This is incredible what they did, and yeah, I don't know. We'll wait and see how it plays out. But it started out really good, and now it's all of a sudden it's just exploded. And look, all of a sudden we can legitly say that we may have now found the new favorite to win the men's Money in the Bank, which is Seth freaking Rollins. And I think a lot of people are kind of saying that now, that they believe it's going to be Rollins winning it all. So, yeah, there's really nothing more to add. This was at least a 3.5 to 3.75. And Florio, what's yours?
All right, MF, overall review, Monday Night Raw, the fallout from Saturday night's main event, the penultimate show before Money in the Bank, the final night of the 3 nights in Tampa. How did we do?
Excellent. I thought it was an incredible job. I thought the matches were good to solid. One cut out, I think, the whole night. That was really nothing more. And yeah, I thought they did an incredible job. So yeah, to me, great show. Nothing more to say. And yeah, I got to give this at least an 8.5 out of 10. So Floyd, what's yours?
Nice. I think it's a slight overrate, but not too much. I was thinking more of 7.5 to 8, but I'm right there with you. There were some hits and misses on last night's show, which was nowhere near as strong as the last one. The tag team division got screen time, but the creative deficiencies that exist within it at this point are apparent from the lack of crowd investment. The 2 promos in the second half of the show did not really further anything of note, despite setting up what should be some fun championship matches. Counteracting those disappointments was some quality triple threat action in both Money in the Bank qualifiers and the latest in the rapidly deteriorating relationship within the Judgment Day. Split the difference and say that the good outweighed the bad. So this was about a 7.5 to 8 out of 10 for me. So, and now we're going to move on to that insanely newsworthy NXT. And like I said, going into this, I was fully expecting a ho-hum back to reality after a hot Battleground. We all know how great Battleground was. But oh no. You want to talk newsworthy? Ho. Get ready for newsworthy. Battleground saw Trick Williams shock the world as he won the TNA World Heavyweight Championship from Joe Hendry. This is the first time since WWE and TNA formed their partnership that someone under contract with one company has won a title in the other. So it was an important moment for both of the companies and Trick Williams. Tonight's episode featured all of the fallout from Battleground while also continuing the build-up for Worlds Collide on June 7th. Let's take a look at everything that happened on this week's episode of NXT as we continue on with Ridiculously Raw. And we started off with the battle for the NXT North American Championship, the first of 2 championship matches here tonight. Ricky Saints defending the title against All Ego Ethan Page. Total chaos from the get-go. Mike Rome couldn't do the big fight feel introductions. That's how intense this was. Security guards, referees are all around ringside. And when all of the chaos settled, the winner of the match in 12 minutes and 52 seconds and new NXT North American champion, All Ego, Ethan Page. Whoa. Okay. The first of many bombs that dropped here tonight. Like I said, they did not wait for the official introductions and began brawling before the bell. Security pulled them apart as the crowd chanted, "Let them fight." And WWE did everything it could to make this match feel like it was about more than just the title, and it worked. This felt like a bitter rivalry that could only end with one man going to the hospital. Ricky Saints managed to kick out of the Ego's edge, but Ethan Page still beat him in the end to become the new North American champion. This was a very fun match, and it's going to be hard for anything else on this show to top. It might have been better in the main event slot, but it could have. Keyword is it could have been. For once, WWE actually listened to the crowd and let them fight. And the way Ethan Page dropped Ricky Saints on that chair looked nasty. And Ricky Saints sold it perfectly. Solid 3.5 stars. Great way to start it off. And don't worry, that's just the first bomb to drop. More to come. Hold on to your hats. Or should I say, as the great Tony Schiavone said at Bash at the Beach 2000, Lord, hang on here. That's all I'm going to say. So,
yeah.
3.5 stars. MF, the first bomb that dropped tonight. Lord, hang on here.
Yeah, no, I could not believe Ricky Saints lost the belt. I was stunned that Ricky Saints lost the belt, but it is what it is. They did an incredible job. It was a solid opener, and yeah, I thought it could have been incredible, and it was a great matchup. Everything looked really good. I'm just not really, like I said, it was really good. It was a 3.5 star bout, and yeah, hats off. They did it. So, new champion, history made. Nothing more to say. Florio, it's yours.
Spoiler alert, that's not the last time you're gonna hear MF say those words tonight.
Mm-mm.
Oh boy. So okay. Let's move on to our next match. We had a crossover. Mike Santana. We all remember Mike Santana. He had that backstage moment Sunday night at Battleground where he was interrupted by the No Quarter Catch crew. Charlie Dempsey got in his face, but Tavion Heights respectfully challenged him to a match. And here we go. It was Mike Santana versus Tavion Heights. Tavion Heights had the No Quarter Catch crew in his corner. Winner of the match in 10 minutes and 20 seconds, it was Mike Santana. And don't worry, that's not the last you're going to be hearing of him tonight. So MF, Mike Santana defeating Tavion Heights in 10 minutes and 20 seconds. Mike Santana on NXT television.
Yeah, and looked really good in his win as well. So yeah, I could give this about this was a solid 3.5-star bout. I thought it could have been a little better in certain areas, but no shade, no anger, no bad. They did a really good job with it. So yeah, really nothing more to say. And Anthony, it is yours.
3.25 for me. This was a highly physical and competitive bout. Both of these guys are versatile athletes who have as much agility as they do power. So they found their groove quickly. Tavion Heights put up a good fight, but Mike Santana was able to get the win with the spin the block clothesline. Like you said, MF, this was far from perfect, but the crowd was loving it. And Mike Santana showed Tavion Heights respect after the match, but Charlie Dempsey looked furious. It's wild to see Mike Santana in a WWE ring, but he deserves it. Santana was rolling around the ring and moving quickly, but it may have been too quick. He tried a sunset flip and ended up tripping on the landing. And the way Tavion Heights picked up Mike Santana with a rolling fireman's carry was very impressive. This was easily 3 to 3.25 stars. And coming up next, here comes the next bomb. We had, I'll save that for the setup for next week's show. Tony D had a sit down with Luca Crucifino. That was more of a vignette more than anything else. Now we'll get into this. The new TNA World Heavyweight Champion Trick Williams. Williams came out after the break to the crowd chanting "Whoop that trick" as he celebrated winning the TNA World Heavyweight Championship from Joe Henry. He turned on the crowd and said since NXT didn't appreciate him, he was going to go to TNA. Enter Mike Santana. Mike Santana came out and gave him props, but he said Trick is not his champion. He said Williams made a bad impression by trying to tear down TNA in his promo. He called Trick a pretender. And here comes the next bomb. Who showed up on the makeshift Titantron there? None other than Director of Authority for TNA, Santino Marella. Santino Marella appeared, and he told Trick Williams that next week on NXT, Trick Williams will have his first TNA World Heavyweight title defense against Mike Santana. Boom. The second bomb drop of the night. However, it was a pretty standard promo segment to set up the title match. Nothing surprising was said, but it was fine for what it was. Trick Williams trying to be a heel felt forced at first, but he is going to be good in this role like he was before. So I'm surprised they're going into this so quickly. I mean, I would have thought they would have held off on this until maybe Slammiversary because it's in Long Island. That's pretty much Mike Santana country. So, but that's still a couple months away, so they can still get there. So,
yeah.
But standard promo, fine for what it was. But MF, the second bomb drop of the night, per Santino Marella. Next week on NXT, Trick Williams, Mike Santana, TNA World Heavyweight Championship. How about it?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think it's going to be very interesting to see. Obviously, big fan of Mike Santana and everything else. I kind of feel like Trick's going to hold the belt for a little bit now, with everything that's been going on, and just because of the fact that they put the belt on, I kind of feel like right now, I feel like it's gonna be Mike Santana, that he won't be able to win the title, at least not yet. Down the line, he will. But I think right now it's just kind of, yeah. So, really nothing more to add. So, Florio, it's yours.
I still think Slammiversary.
Yeah.
Long Island and the Bronx. They're
Yes,
intertwined, aren't they?
they are. They are indeed.
So that's pretty. Can you imagine what that will be like if they do it on that night? Oh man, that's gonna be something.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, I do believe we do have a cutout here. Let me just check this over. All right. It was Jada Parker squaring off against Tatum Paxley. Jada Parker wins the match, 3 minutes and 46 seconds. Yeah, this is a cutout here. Yeah, you could say it was a competitive back and forth match. Jada Parker used one of Tatum Paxley's dolls to distract her so she could hit her finisher for the win. But Thea Hale attacked Jada Parker as soon as the match was over. There wasn't much to this match, but it had good energy, and it made Jada Parker look tough. You could say this was the worst fight of the night. This is about a 1.5, maybe 2. And then we had actually, there was one match that was actually worse than this, and it was the debut. But before we get into that, it was announced that at Worlds Collide, Stephanie Vacour is going to team up with Lola Vice to take on, and they're going to take on Dalise and Chica Tormenta at Worlds Collide. So there's a fun little tag match there. So, and like I said, Vacour and Lola Vice appear to have formed some kind of alliance during a backstage segment with Ava. And having Tatum Paxley carry around dolls made to look like released superstars is certainly a choice. So that was about a 1.5. Now we get into the NXT in-ring debut of the winner of LFG Season 1, Booker T's guy, Jasper Troy. He made his official NXT debut against Dante Chen. Jasper Troy wins the match, 3 minutes and 37 seconds. I mean, it was obviously the showcase for Troy, obviously, so maybe 1 star for the effort. But after the match was over, though, Oba Femi showed up. And what have I been preaching about for the last week or so? What's the next big money match in NXT for that title? Oba Femi and Jasper Troy. That's another one of those Booker T, no bread, no water, just meat matches right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, Oba Femi, the NXT champion, his music hit. He appeared in the Crow's Nest. He said Jasper Troy's 5 seconds of fame are over. So they will obviously have a match soon. And Dante Chen did a good job selling for Jasper Troy. All right. Okay, and then this is where the good stuff comes in here. Charlie Dempsey approached Miles Bourne and Tavion Heights and mocked them for failing as singles wrestlers. But Miles Bourne took exception and said he proved himself. And Ren Sinclair praised Miles Bourne. And Miles Bourne challenged Charlie Dempsey to prove himself. And Dempsey said, I'll do that as long as it's a rounds match. And both men agreed. So next week, we're going to see Miles Bourne versus Charlie Dempsey in a rounds match, a la the NXT Heritage Cup. So let's see what happens with that. And then new North American champion Ethan Page came out to celebrate winning the North American Championship, but he was interrupted by Javon Evans and Laredo Kid from AAA. And also Monday Night Raw, or should I say SmackDown's Ray Phoenix showed up. And at Worlds Collide, Ethan Page will defend the North American Championship in a fatal 4-way match versus Javon Evans, versus Laredo Kid, versus Ray Phoenix. How about that? So that's got show stealer potential right there. And then from there was another segment. There was And then Dalise and Chica Tormenta showed up, and Lola Vice, or actually that was during the main event. I'm sorry, got a little ahead of myself. So, all right. Ava was chatting with Mr. Stone and Stevie Turner. Turner and Stone talked about Sean Legacy deserving a title shot, and Ava said Sean Legacy will be first in line for the title after the Worlds Collide match. So basically, Sean Legacy will challenge whoever wins the North American Championship from Worlds Collide. So we shall see how that sets up. Next week on NXT, Miles Bourne versus Charlie Dempsey in a rounds match. And if Miles Bourne wins, he is free from the No Quarter Catch crew. He will no longer be a member of the No Quarter Catch crew. He wants out. He wants out of the NQCC. He beats Charlie Dempsey in that rounds match next week. He's basically his own man.
Mm.
And then, of course, the big one. Trick Williams, Mike Santana for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. And now, this is what we're about to witness here. This is the mother of all bomb drops right here. NXT Women's Championship on the line. The champion, Stephanie Vacour, defending the title against Jacy Jayne of Fatal Influence. Fallon Henley and Jasmine Nix were in Jacy Jayne's corner. The winner of the match, 13 minutes, 12 seconds, and the new NXT Women's Champion, Jacy Jayne. What? Do I start this?
Yeah,
Or
it's
do
you.
you start it, MF?
No, it's you. It's you, kid.
I thought so. Oh my God. Whoa. If I could swear, if you heard it on commentary, when that 3 went down, you could hear Vic Joseph do the Corey and Sean. You heard it. He did it.
Yeah.
We all did it. Oh my goodness. You could say this was another 3.5-star match. The Dalise and Chica Tormenta, they showed up, but Lola Vice fought them off. That distraction almost led to JC winning the title, but Stephanie kicked out and hit a springboard crossbody. Other than the interference, this was a solid match. Jacy Jayne is someone who has developed into the kind of talent who can work with anyone. And Vacour continued to prove why she belongs at the top of the mountain. Jacy Jayne got into an argument with Fallon Henley at ringside, but it didn't matter because she still helped Jacy Jayne score the surprising win to become the new NXT Women's Champion. It is shocking that Jacy Jayne has not been called up to the main roster. She has been in NXT for a long time and is good enough to hang with the Raw and SmackDown rosters. And Jacy Jayne hit a nice running knee at one point. You can go on. You could call this easily one of the biggest upsets in the history of NXT. By the way they were selling it, they were selling this like this was maybe the biggest upset in NXT history. Did anybody really expect Jacy Jayne to win the title here tonight? I didn't. I'm sure MF didn't. And I'm sure everybody watching around NXT, not just watching at home, but in the CWC, nobody expected this. And of course, what really put this over the top, ring announcer Mike Rome was so shocked he could not even make the announcement at first. You saw how shocked and shaken he was. Cue that fan from WrestleMania 30 when The Undertaker lost to Brock Lesnar. Cue that. Cue the Stone Cold Steve Austin from Royal Rumble 1997, which is exactly what I did when that 3 went down. Jaw hitting the floor. Nobody expected this. Nobody. We're taking a trip back in time. We're going back 30 years. We're going back to anything can happen. Oh yeah, anything can and will happen, and it damn sure did here tonight. As if those bomb drops earlier were one thing, but this might have been the biggest bomb of them all. An absolute stunner here tonight. So, and for all the Stephanie Vacour fans, well, I don't know what to tell you. The only thing I can tell you, maybe, could this be Stephanie? Could this be their way of saying Stephanie Vacour is main roster ready? Very possible. Very possible. So, wow. The stunner of the upset of the year. There's no doubt about it. But regardless, though, congratulations, Jacy Jayne, the new NXT Women's Champion. This will easily be, unless she goes up to the main roster and becomes a big success there, for right now at least, this is easily going to be the biggest win of Jacy Jayne's career. Out of the shadows of Mandy Rose and Gigi Dolan, initially as part of Toxic Attraction, now Fatal Influence has the big prize. They've got the women's title. And Jacy Jayne, a 4-year veteran, can call herself the face of the women's division. Lord, hang on here. What else is there to say? 3 1/4, 3 1/2. Very good match. The most surprising outcome of this year by a mile. I don't know what else there is to say. Except, Monsoon, for the second time tonight, if you would. How about it?
Yeah, no, history was made. I will not call unprecedented crowning just like the first time. But yeah, this was about a 3.5-star bout. This was a shocking turn of events. I think none of us saw this coming. Absolutely none of us saw this coming. And yeah, it did. Jacy Jayne did the impossible. She won the title, and it shocked everyone. And yeah, there's really nothing more to say. So, Florio, it's yours.
All right, MF. Overall thoughts on this very newsworthy edition of NXT?
Again, I gotta say it, and straight up, this is another 8.5 out of 10. Very newsworthy, no doubt about it. Big moment, history made. So many good things about this show, and there's really nothing more to add here. So, yeah, Anthony, it's yours, man.
For the most part, tonight's NXT was pretty average, but there were a few moments that will have people talking. The build-up for Worlds Collide continued, and we even got a couple of matches booked for the show. Of course, the two big talking points coming out of this show tonight, the two title changes. Ethan Page winning the North American Championship, but of course, the big one, Jacy Jayne winning the NXT Women's Championship. Both of them shocking outcomes. Being surprised is rarely a bad thing in professional wrestling, and both winners will definitely carry the titles well. It's just shocking that WWE would take the title off of Stephanie Vacour so close to its show with AAA. All in all, this was a very good follow-up to Battleground, but it did have a couple of matches you could skip and not miss much, that being the Jada Parker and Tatum Paxley match, and the other, of course, the Jasper Troy showcase over Dante Chen. But other than that, some solid to good matches, and of course, the two big title changes, setting up for Worlds Collide, and of course, the big TNA title match for next week. So a very newsworthy show. So this is right around 7.5 to 8 again, mainly for that shock value at the end. So, and that's a moment we're going to be talking about for many years to come. So 7.5 to 8 out of 10. And with that, that'll put the bow on this edition of Ridiculously Raw. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in as always. So, all right, MF, let's hit them up with the future content. What do we got coming up?
Well, future content here, basically, we got nothing else until Friday, and that's the Cerebral Smack Talk. It'll be TNA and SmackDown Live as usual, and then we will probably have. We really got nothing else, so yeah, we'll wait until it goes when we go back on Tuesday for another edition. So until then, yeah, we're done. And Anthony, it's
Friday
yours. Mm-hmm.
All right. So Friday night. So that will put the ball on this edition of Ridiculously Raw. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in as always, and we'll be back with you again on Friday night at 11 p.m. over on the MEPS channel of Race Fan 95 for another edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk, where we will get into TNA Impact and Friday Night SmackDown. And then 1 week from tonight, we do it all again, Ridiculously Raw, the Go Home Show for Money in the Bank and for Worlds Collide. And we'll get into Raw and NXT. So that's it. So until Friday night for the Cerebral Smack Talk over on the MF channel of Race Fan 95, this is Anthony Florio here for Good Old MF Michael Fletcher, and in spirit, the Phenom Michael Bullock, and of course, always and forever, our First Lady Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed rest of your week. And until Friday night with the Cerebral Smack Talk, you've been watching Ridiculously Raw right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and Streamy.com. And remember, my friends, no matter what anyone tells you beyond anything else, and after what we saw here tonight, wrestling is indeed actually real. For everybody who has been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio, so long, and bye, everybody, bye.